Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to EduTALK. EduTALK, as you know, is a virtual talk show created out of the need for a global learning community. And as you know, on this edition of EduTALK, it's Black History Month. It's Black History Month 2026. And some of the things we want to highlight on EduTalk is looking at the history of Black History Month and the people, some of the people who have made significant strides in us living through Black culture and embracing the identity of our people, our ancestors. Black History Month was established by Carter G. Woodson in 1926. It celebrates African American achievements intrinsically linked to Haiti as the first free Black republic in 1804. Haiti inspired enslaved people in the US and served as a symbol of Black liberation with figures like Frederick Douglass advocating for its recognition. And here are some of the most significant things that we need to consider when we're thinking about Black history and where does it start and how it come about and living in the lives and the minds of people now. The symbol of freedom. That's one of the connections to Haiti. As the first nation to abolish slavery, Haiti served as a powerful nearby example of Black sovereignty, and it directly inspired American abolitionists and the slave rebellion. The other part of it is the cultural connection and the cultural exchange. So during the Harlem Renaissance, intellectuals like Langston Hughes visited Haiti to connect with their roots and explore a society untainted by American style of white supremacy. And you look at diplomatic struggles too. So pro-slavery US officials historically isolated Haiti. Yet Black leaders like Frederick Douglass again, who served as minister to Haiti, fought for recognition of its role in Black history. They're still fighting for that recognition. And more recently, modern remembrance, you're looking at Haitian history, is highlighted during Black History Month as a key part of the African diaspora's resilience and liberation, notably in honoring Haitian Flag Day, and that's on May 18th. Now, to sum it all up, Haiti's story remains a cornerstone in understanding the global fight for Black freedom and the broader context of Black History Month. And that's where we want to look at some of the things that influence this. Now, my guest on EduTalk is my very, very dear friend and brother is Mr. Derek Lipscomb. And he actually have been around for a little while. I've done quite a bit of things. He's the Chief Organizational Officer and the Community Engagement Coordinator for Roots Rugby. My mind is in Jamaican, sir. Roots Rugby. He's project coordinator at Pollyanna. We're going to talk a little bit about Pollyanna as well. A consultant for the Work Racial Literacy, and it's an LLC here in New York. And he's also a college readiness coordinator for Play Rugby USA. Welcome to EduTalk, Derek. It's been a while.
Yeah, good to see you, Dr. Betts. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about your background, just briefly, your background. I know you come to embrace this work,
Yeah,
and then we get into
sure.
some of the organizations.
The baseline of it is that I play rugby. I'm also, a teacher and a community organizer. And so for me personally, it's like, how can I kind of ball those into one?
Yeah.
And it really just kind of comes down to how I can really kind of plan out my coordinating of the research that I do. How can I educate the community around me? I myself am based in Harlem, New York. It's like all of 1 degree outside. So good to be talking to you inside here today. But a big part of what I do is really just kind of bringing different members of different communities together. I've recognized that over my years of teaching, over my years of playing rugby, over my years of community organizing, I typically run into some really great people that only if I could be able to just connect them with somebody else or those other great people, what we'd be able to create and collaborate together in order to build a better coalition.
Yeah.
Especially, in this political atmosphere, I think it's more important that Black Americans, especially, and Black folks of the African diaspora across the board are really kind of finding one another
Yeah.
and doing that intentionally. And so my role at Baseline is really kind of finding ways to build intentional community that wants to do better, for the spaces around it.
Yeah, yeah. I like the word intentional. So tell us, because you're pro rugby and you played at the national and international level, won many games and came out on top, and now mentoring young people. Why rugby? What called you to the game?
So I originally, I was a football player. I played basketball as well too. I ran track. I played baseball. I wrestled. I did all these sports. And then when I went to college, I was playing football and I got introduced to rugby by a friend on my floor. It was
Hmm.
an easy way for me to stay in shape in playing football. And
Yeah.
once the football season was over, rugby just is continuous. And so I just continued to keep playing. And then I realized that a lot of my energy was just kind of going into the sport itself, and I just stuck with it. So, from playing at Columbia University until
Yeah,
now,
yeah. And you were captain. You weren't just playing,
yeah,
you were captain.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I've been blessed to be able to be around some really great people that really
Yeah.
kind of see my own intentionality and wanting to get better at the sport, and so being able to play, Columbia really boosted my career. I played around the world at this point. I played in the Caribbean. I played overseas. I played professionally in London, and just recently returned from Ghana and played their national side with Roots Rugby. So I'm actually wearing a sweater for today. But a big
Yeah.
part of, again, like my play is also linked to my life as an educator. And so being a captain, it's almost like being a teacher, except now instead of a classroom full of like 8 to 9 year olds, you've got these grown 26 to 35-year-olds, and they all need something. But, how can you really kind of meet them where they are, make them
Right.
better players on and
Yeah.
off the field too? And so that's, again, like, thinking about ways they can stay engaged with my community, I can engage in their communities. And that's, really kind of led me. I'm 36 now, but,
Mm.
a big part of my life has been running it forward and passing it back for all of our rugby fans out there. And so I'm
Yeah.
running it forward now, but I got to think about where I'm passing it back to. And so
Yeah.
that's where a lot of this work comes from, and thinking about who am I passing it back to?
Yeah.
Where are they?
Yeah.
Can I meet them where they are too?
Right. So you actually talk about roots rugby. What about you? Let's talk about the Work Racial Literacy LLC,
Sure.
because that's a LLC. It's a company that you operate. What exactly is this? And I know you have done quite a bit in terms of Black history and literacy, racial literacy. What is it?
Yeah. The work is really just a word for doing like the work on yourself, the
Mm.
work in your community, but it's really wrapped around identity. And so I created the work in 2020, following George Floyd's murder. I recognized that I was kind of having the same conversations, with educators, with students, with families around what can I do. And so
Yeah.
the work was really just a way for anybody to kind of figure out where they can start. So is it, I want to learn about tidbits of Black history? Do I want to start with a book? Are there resources that I need? Are there conversations that I should be having? And the work was really just a way for me to take all of those conversations and then take them into a space where let's think about this from a framework perspective. What is it that your organization needs, or that you need, or that your community needs around racial literacy? Is it just really kind of understanding, and really kind of getting more stories involved? Is it really much more intentional, like doing, like we need to see something that's being done, and how can an organization get on board with that kind of change management? And so this consulting role really kind of, again, folded into my educating and my rugby, actually, because it made me start to think about like what systems are in place and what's intentionally there to be a roadblock, what's intentionally there to kind of slow down progress, and how can we remove those roadblocks for folks to do their best work. And so that kind of work, especially in this day and age, I felt was very needed, but it also
Yeah.
is going to seek, a great deal of resistance, simply because it is forcing people in some ways to change some of their habits, the way they interact with folks, where they're finding their information. And so the work for me, also was almost like my own work. Like it was,
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
doing this work constantly
Like
for myself.
discovering yourself,
Exactly.
parts. Yeah,
Yes.
parts of it. Yeah, I understand because I've gone on the site and look at some of the material, and it's actually discovering my ancestors, discovering my roots, and finding other people's roots on there as well.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the goal there too is not to like tell you what to do, but
Yeah.
just where you would like to get started. I think oftentimes folks are a little nervous to just kind of raise their hand and say, I need help.
Yeah.
And so this is a way for you to at least come in and say, this is what I know, this is what I'd like to know, and here's how you can help me. And that in itself, that kind of connection is the work as well too. You being able to start to build out the community that's going to support you as you do this racial literacy deep dive.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the coordinator position that you have at Play Rugby USA.
Hmm.
Play
Hmm.
Rugby USA. Is it a national organization that you partner with?
This is based in New York for the moment,
Okay.
but its model is something that I think is pretty easily adaptable across the U.S. As rugby is continuously like growing.
Yeah.
My role with Play Rugby is really kind of helping the high school students make that transition into college. And so that might be like, let's just talk about like what financial aid is.
Hmm.
Let's talk about what a college resume is. Let's think about like what you should be putting on your supplementals. But it's also thinking about some of the soft skills of leadership. So even if you don't have a captaincy role, what are some ways that you can show leadership, with your own practices? But then also thinking about like what kind of environment do you want to start building in college as you're 18 now, you're more responsible, you're supposed to be more independent, but that, again, it can feel really scary. And how can you kind of navigate that knowing who to go to for what? And so a lot of this again is just really intentionally showing the kids that this transition is happening regardless, but here's how we can support it. And the goal there is that if more kids get involved, we'll be able to kind of take that model and use it with other rugby clubs that already do this kind of outreach. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like places out in San Francisco. I've got friends that are out there right now that are building that kind of same model, and I'm hoping that we can start to build that kind of community across
Yeah.
state lines as well
That's
too.
good. That's very good. That's very good. And your most recent one is at Pollyanna. Pollyanna is a good company in terms of
Love
getting
them.
people together in
Yeah.
the in independent school and international school space to have conversations. And it's around the same equity work, right?
Yes. So I'm when we just got finished with the Pollyanna National Conference. It
Yeah.
was over Zoom, interestingly enough, because we had planned for it to be in Minneapolis.
Hmm.
Back in 2024, we planned to have this conference in Minneapolis in
Yeah.
2026, and the week before, we were supposed to head over to Minneapolis was when Brene Gill was killed.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and that, and again, that allowed us to kind of think about how's what we're doing impacting the
Hmm.
world around us, but how's the world around us impacting what we're doing? And we spent 2.5 days over Zoom, and it was very engaging, just having so many different educators, parents, even students, just really just talk about how this is landing on them.
Yeah,
How are the ICE protests,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
impacting them going to school and them being able to do
yeah,
their job. And so again,
yeah,
I really like herald Pollyanna as being just really active and progressive in this role, just because it does require a great deal of bravery to just raise your
yeah.
hand and say we have to talk about it. But later today, I'll be also overseeing the teen council for Pollyanna. So if there are any students that or any other
Yeah.
educators that are watching this program that would love to be involved, we have a teen council where we have a speaker at least once every month, and it's a really great opportunity for the students again to learn some of those soft skills, but also
Hmm.
to evaluate their environment around them too.
Okay.
So it's real hands on the deck right now.
Yeah, all right. Close to the end of the show, I'll ask you for the how they can get in touch with that
Sure.
because we do have people in the network who would reach out and get some assistance.
Wonderful.
Let's switch gears here, talk about a little bit Black history and the history behind Black history.
Hmm.
And one of the things that you mentioned to me is that to start off with the week of Black history is Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And
Hmm.
what he did was specifically and intentionally talk about the education of Black folks and looking at each other in their history to discuss the history and realizing that a lot of it was just miseducation around the history of Black people. Talk a little bit based on your background and your education with this and leadership. How
Sure.
did it started with this Dr. Carter?
Yeah, so Dr. Woodson really kind of leaned into the reality of just what he was seeing around them.
Hmm.
And, in the 1920s, just to kind of paint the picture for folks, the Civil War ended in 1865, and, we still had slavery happening, which is where Juneteenth comes from, actually, just because that was the last day that all slaves were freed, on June 19th. And since then, uh, like the history of America is really like difficult to kind of discern between races depending on who you ask. So, for
Hmm.
example, Reconstruction happens, and that's the time where Black folks are finding themselves in political positions, they're finding themselves in power, but at the same time, that became the threat. That level of self-determination, that level of self-advocacy, that collective growth for Black Americans was so rapid that it actually it already impacted white America's like hold on its own like financial future. And so, in order to slow that and stem it and just completely like stop it, that's where Jim Crow followed. And so,
Yeah.
what we found was, after pretty much 1890, that's where racial terrorism became much more prevalent, and it became much more normalized in a way where Black folks should be over here, and if they get out of line or if they're almost growing too quickly, um, excuse me,
Or
you end up
growing at all.
yeah, and that's where
Yeah.
again you see that there's a little bit of a shift in perception around like Black achievement. And when
Yeah.
it happens, it must be stopped. But then we can talk about how come Black folks aren't doing enough. And
Yeah.
so with that knowledge, Carter G. Woodson decided like let's dedicate a week to intentionally teach our history to our people so that we can hold it in a way where we're passing it down and
Hmm.
make that just a week for the start, and make it much more political oriented so that people are voting for the right policies, they're staying up to date, they're not being miseducated. And he decided to create a book called The Miseducation of the Negro and talk about how
Hmm.
this history is being told intentionally wrong,
Hmm.
and the way that slavery or colonialism or imperialism is being discussed in the Western Hemisphere is intentional to place white folks and white leadership in the center of it. And
Right.
so, with regard to that, it ends up actually changing the way that Black people can really self-determine. Just because it is seen as that if they do self-determine, then you run into a Tulsa, and you run into Black Wall
Mhm.
Street kind of situations
Yeah. Yeah.
where you will get some level of violence thrown at you simply because you exist and you're doing well without the need for white influence. And so
Yeah.
I
I
think.
realize,
Mhm.
let me say this before you move on. I realize that in the history of American politics and otherwise, that in the 1800s, there were more, late 1800s, with the freeing of black people becoming emancipated, there were more black representatives in politics, in the state level and the national level than even today,
Yes.
right?
And a big part of that was simply because now that we are equal, well, let's
Hmm.
have the equal representation.
Hmm.
And what it actually signaled after Reconstruction is that no, we can't be equal.
Yeah.
We see this as a piece of a pie, and you even getting your equal amount, or you getting, the representation needed to really kind of balance your future after slavery, is
Yeah.
actually taking something away from us. And so,
Mm.
rather than allow you to kind of get level, we're actually going to start legislating ways that you won't get the same level of resources that we will have.
Hmm. So he actually, Carter here played a significant role in starting the ball towards, well, continuing the civil rights movement from the early 1900s to where it was in 1965 when the Civil Rights Act came out, and
Hmm.
now women could vote because women had benefited from it as well. Whether you're black or white woman, you are able to vote, and
Hmm.
now then black people in general starting to feel like, okay, we can belong. We feel a sense of belonging now a little bit, even though it's not completely giving us access to a lot of things, but we can still make a way for our children. We
Hmm.
start seeing the sun rising, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, but talk a little bit now with Haiti in the background, and the fight for black people in Haiti to cause the ones in the Americas in general to
Yeah.
topple government and the
Yeah.
oppression regime and so on. It actually pushes people to fight for freedom, coming out of Haiti from the late 1700s to early 1800s. And
Hmm.
so we talk about Carter, and now we have Haiti and other people who rose up. So give us
Yeah.
a little bit now with other people in Haiti who actually made a difference, and still we're still wondering why it's not so prominent now, you know?
Yeah, and working backwards, Haiti's in the Winter Olympics, for example, and
Yeah.
their opening ceremony outfits actually pay tribute to the Haitian Revolution. However,
Yes.
for anyone that sees the jackets that they have, you'll see the horse that Toussaint Louverture was riding on, but Louverture himself is not present. And the question there is, where is he, first of all? But then when you uncover the fact that he's seen as a political figure and therefore he can't be on that horse, then that opens up this, to your point, how the Haitian Revolution really inspired a great deal of just like Black self-determination and Black activism and Black liberation. However, we can't talk about it. It can't be seen.
Yeah.
It can't be something that we can really kind of dive in on because of politics and how
Mhm.
politics has become one of these hush hush kind of things. But when you look at Louverture's absence from that jacket, it speaks for itself, in where
Yes.
he himself as a Black person cannot be discussed, and how Blackness itself has been politicized in a way where now it needs to be seen but not heard. And now
Yeah.
it's starting to even get to where it can't even be seen. And so it relies so much on the storytelling. It relies so much on the intentional like truth telling of Haitians, but also folks that are allies to Haiti, that are
Hmm.
that may be Afrocentric, that understand that history impacting their livelihood today. And when you kind of bring those two pieces together, the then and the now, you start
Right.
to see some similarities around just like when the Haitian Revolution happened, it needed to be quieted. It needed to be made sure that it was legislated in a way where other folks wouldn't want to do the same thing, right?
Hmm.
And making sure
Hmm.
that freedom for Haiti wasn't something that could be replicated on American soil. And what that means is that we got to silence, we got to like suppress a lot of it, and we also have to punish a great deal of folks that may even get somewhere to that line. And so when you think about
Yeah.
the Black Panther Party, for example, and the Black Liberation Party here in America, a lot of what they have is derived from those same veins in Haiti in that revolution, and recognizing that like we have to be able to intentionally self-determine. But what does that mean? And so that
Yeah.
that actually may mean that like I need to stand up. I need to be fearless. I need to say, exactly what we're seeing so that we can bring, a lot more folks that have the same headspace, that have the same mindset. They're like, you're right. I'm noticing the same things too. How can we come together to make sure that we're all on the same page and telling the right truth?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Go on.
I was just going to say just to wrap up,
Hmm.
Haiti's time in existence has been pretty just marked by punishment. After the
Yeah.
Haitian Revolution, you just
Yes.
see how there's just so much desolation, and it's intentional. It's to
Mhm.
teach a lesson around, if you want, to self-determine and really kind of fight for your freedom, like go for it. But now we are going to just simply attack. We're going to
Yeah.
come after you both on your own soil, but we're also going to legislate it. For example, here in America, Trump coming after Haitian Americans largely
Hmm.
just because they're Haitian, and there's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
really much in there to pull apart or the nuance of. It's just quite literally you are different and therefore. And so what we can do with that is really kind of think about how we can show up in support and in defense of that
Hmm.
population, just because like they got this started for a lot of us. And for a lot of folks, the Haitian Revolution is where a lot of people started to read a little bit more about Black liberation. And so
Yeah.
in certain ways, those footprints are there, and we have to make sure that those footprints stay.
Yeah, it's about erasing, as you said. It's really about erasing. And as when we talk so much, you and I, over the years, where I'm looking at the idea around, nurturing our history.
Mm.
There are other people from different ethnicities and backgrounds, they're nurturing their history. They're checking on their grandparents.
Hmm.
They have, when I look at some of the people here from more Anglo-Saxon background, they can trace their history and their grandparents all the way to the fifth or the sixth great.
Yep.
Yeah, and many of us, when we ask about what about, like, our people, we can't find more than the third generation because we know our grandparents, and then we don't
Hmm.
know after
Yeah,
that.
and I would even add that, for me, discovering my own history, I'm asking my parents, I'm asking my grandparents, I'm asking their
Yeah.
brothers and sisters, and come to find out there's a better history on the horses that were kept on
Oh
some of
my
the
God.
plantations than the folks that lived there. And for me, that's the thing that I took away from this, that like if we really wanted to keep the history of Black folks intact, it was there. We
Yeah.
like and
Yeah.
I think about like the slave masters and the slave catchers, the folks that could record this history, but there's really you're left with scraps. You're trying to make
Yeah.
a perfect retelling with really imperfect resources, and how
Mhm.
that can really impact your own truth, and how you can really
Yeah.
explore it more
Yeah.
intentionally too.
Yeah. I'm very glad. I hope that people will learn more about Dr. Carter
Mhm.
Woodson. I'm really hoping that people would even read the book, the Education of the Negro.
Yeah, Miseducation
Yeah.
of the Negro.
The
Yeah, it is.
yeah, the
Yeah, it
miseducation of
is.
the
It's an
Negro.
excellent book,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of it is poignant for now too.
Yeah, yeah. So shout out to Haitians and Haiti, as some people would pronounce it. Let's wrap up here. Talk about. Thank you so much for sharing this, and we're hoping that people will gain some knowledge about this, but also push themselves to get a little bit more.
Indeed.
With people, in terms of our students who need help, with Pollyanna and your coordination role there, how can they get in touch with or get connected to support?
So if they look on Pollyanna's website, and that's pollyannaus.org or pollyanna.org,
Okay.
um,
Yeah, I'll post it
folks,
in the chat.
okay, folks will be able to reach out there. But if they're interested in the teen council, they can
Mhm.
always email me directly, and I can send you my information if you want to put that in there as well too.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but
yes.
but a big part of this now is really about finding the kids, finding the educators that want to do something. So in my past, one of the things that I always had to navigate was taking diversity work as a whole, working with folks that are apathetic to it, or, in some ways, pushing against it and opposing it. Whereas, like, in this day and age, I'm really working with people that want to do this work. So I'm
Yes.
not necessarily engaging with folks that, could take it or leave it. I will let you leave it. And so if you want to do it, I'm
Mhm.
really putting, the ball more so in folks' court to come find me, to really kind of engage. That way I know where the energy is.
Mhm.
Rather than dragging people in this day and age to the finish line, you really got to be understanding that, like, there are folks that really want to do this, and then there are
Mhm.
folks that don't necessarily care, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We're okay with meeting folks where they are, but that does
Yeah.
mean that we're going to be over here, and you got to play a little bit of catch up. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where,
Yeah.
again, like I think so many people are ready to have the conversation. They just need the invitation in. This is your invitation. And this is something that, like, it just takes a little bit of inertia to really get that ball rolling. And all it really takes is just the want to do it. And then before you know it, it just becomes a normalized practice. And that's what I want to
Yeah.
encourage for my students, all of the students that I teach, that it really comes down to just taking the first step and being
Mhm.
fearless there. And then eventually we'll work with you for it to be a much more normalized practice for you.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. It starts in the school too. The
Hmm.
schools really
Hmm.
need to step up. Thank you
Of
so much, Derek. It's a pleasure talking with you. And we'll definitely talk again. We need to do another session like this and a couple more
course.
too. Yes,
All
thank
right.
you so
Thanks for
much.
having me. I
Yeah.
greatly appreciate it. Yeah, I look forward to any time we get a chance to catch up too.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This has been EduTalk. You know where to find us. Reach out to us at edusolutionsintl@gmail.com or visit our website at edusolutionsintl.org. We'll see you next week with another edition of EduTalk. Walk good, everybody. Bye bye.